That wasn't real. We were acting.
We're rehearsing, Jonah. She's about to get burned.
The girl who once moved all of America with her pure, radiant smile. She used to be Theo's girlfriend in The Cosby Show. She was the devoted Myra in Family Matters. She once shone brightly, then passed away at the age of 30 too soon, too unexpectedly. The funeral was quiet, private, unpretentious, and then came the question that puzzled the world. Why didn't the full cast of The Cosby Show attend Michelle Thomas's funeral? Was it distance scheduling? Or is there an untold truth no one has dared to speak? Do you want to uncover behind-the-scenes secrets, unheard tributes, and the eternal legacy Michelle left behind? Watch the full video to search for the answer together. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss stories that truly touch the heart. Michelle Thomas, an eternal talent on screen. There are stars who shine so brightly so quickly that by the time the audience is still basking in their brilliance, they are already gone, leaving behind a void that can never be filled. Michelle Thomas was one of those stars. People remember her not only for her pure beauty, sparkling eyes, and gentle smile, but also for the way she etched her name into the memory of American pop culture in such a short span of time. And what makes her story all the more intriguing? How did Michelle come to the arts? And how did she manage to leave such a profound legacy when life had only just begun at age 30? Michelle Doris Thomas was born on September 23, 1968 in Boston, Massachusetts, into a family where music and art ran deep in the veins. Her father, Dennis D.T. Thomas, was a founding member of the legendary band Kool and the Gang, the funk and soul group that conquered the world, with hits like Celebration and Get Down on It. Her mother, Finjuar Thomas, was a stage actress. This blend of artistic heritage seemed to have predetermined Michelle's path. From a young age, the little brown-skinned girl with wide eyes followed her mother to performances. And it was the stage, the lights, and the music that became the very breath she lived on, the quiet flame that fueled her dreams. Unlike many other children, Michelle was not just a spectator at these performances. She began entering talent competitions, and wherever she went, she shined. Petite in stature and gentle in smile. But when she sang or stepped in front of a camera, Michelle became mesmerizing. During her high school years, she consistently won in beauty and teen talent contests, reinforcing her belief that the stage was where she truly belonged. Michelle's big break came in the late 1980s, when she caught the attention of producers of The Cosby Show. In 1988, during the show's peak, Michelle was cast as Justine Phillips, Theo Huxtable's played by Malcolm Jamal Warner girlfriend. Although she only appeared in 8 episodes from 1988 to 1990, Justine quickly won over audiences. At a time when The Cosby Show was a cornerstone of American television, the presence of a young actress like Michelle elevated her name significantly. Justine Phillips was written as a sweet yet spirited girlfriend who often challenged Theo on issues of responsibility, love, and maturity. It was the blend of Michelle's graceful beauty and natural acting ability that left such a strong impression. Episodes featuring Justine always brought a pleasant balance, a bit of romance, a touch of humor, and subtle lessons about friendship and young love. Though her character had a short run, Michelle Thomas became a name etched into the minds of viewers, an indispensable part of The Cosby Show's long journey. After leaving The Cosby Show, Michelle didn't fade into the background of forgotten supporting actors. On the contrary, she landed an even more iconic role, Myra Monkhouse, in the sitcom Family Matters. From 1993 to 1998, Michelle appeared in 55 episodes as the smart, charming, and passionately devoted girlfriend of Steve Urkel, the legendary character played by Jaleel White. If Justine on The Cosby Show was Michelle's stepping stone to the spotlight, then Myra was the role that truly engraved her name into the history of American sitcoms. Myra Monkhouse stood out as a refreshing contrast in Family Matters. Unlike many female sitcom characters of the time who were often typecast as demure and passive, Myra was both sweet and fiercely determined, always ready to express her powerful love for Steve Urkel. Many young audiences in the 90s saw themselves in Myra's perseverance, occasional jealousy, and overwhelming affection. Michelle brought a rare innocence and irresistible charm to the role, making Myra one of the most beloved supporting characters of the decade. Around this time, Michelle proved she was not confined to the sitcom world. She joined The Young and the Restless, CBS's iconic daytime soap opera. In 1998, she took on the role of Callie Rogers Stark, a talented and ambitious singer. This role brought Michelle closer to widespread recognition. Tragically, at the 1999 NAACP Image Awards, Michelle Thomas was posthumously nominated for Outstanding Actress in a daytime drama series for her portrayal of Callie. By then, she had already passed away, leaving behind a profound and unshakable sorrow among her fans. What made Michelle's career so remarkable was her ability to make every opportunity count. Though her filmography wasn't vast, every character she played became iconic. From Justine Theo's girlfriend in The Cosby Show, to Myra Steve Urkel's devoted love in Family Matters, to Callie, the driven singer in The Young and the Restless, each role became tied to a unique part of American viewers' collective memory. Behind the glamour, Michelle was known for her disciplined lifestyle. She was a vegetarian, did not smoke, maintained a healthy routine, and deeply valued her family. Friends recalled that Michelle always maintained a unique balance between her career and personal life. She could shine under the spotlight, yet return quietly to her small home to spend time with her parents and closest friends. This down-to-earth quality made her not only beloved by audiences, but also deeply respected by those who worked with her. One particularly meaningful chapter in Michelle's life was her relationship with Malcolm Jamal Warner. Meeting on the set of The Cosby Show, the two quickly became a beautiful couple, both on and off screen. They dated for several years, and even after parting ways in 1994, remained close friends. Warner later described Michelle as the only true love of her life, and Michelle's mother, Finjuar, confirmed that the bond between them endured, even though they were no longer romantically involved. It was one of the clearest testaments to the deep emotional connections Michelle left with those dearest to her. Michelle Thomas. Her final moments. It's often said that the light of the brightest stars fades the fastest. For Michelle Thomas, that light was extinguished on December 23, 1998, just 2 days before Christmas, when she had just turned 30. The news of her death spread like a shockwave, a young, radiant actress at the peak of her career suddenly gone. And the story behind that tragedy left audiences even more stunned, for it was not just the end of a life, but a testament to strength, love, and rare optimism. It all began in August 1997, when Michelle received devastating news. She had been diagnosed with an extremely rare cancer, known as desmoplastic small round cell tumor. The illness was so uncommon that many doctors admitted they had never treated such a case. For a woman in the prime of her life, the diagnosis was no less than a looming death sentence. Yet instead of panic, Michelle faced it with a strange calm. Friends recalled her often saying, "I have to be strong, because if I break down, the people I love will break down too." In early 1998, Michelle underwent her first tumor removal surgery. The operation was temporarily successful, but her health had weakened. Instead of resting completely, Michelle pushed herself to return to the set of The Young and the Restless. She portrayed Callie Rogers Stark, a young singer full of strength and ambition. And through this role, audiences had no idea she was battling constant silent pain each day. Ironically, the character of Callie, with her thirst for life and love, reflected Michelle's own spirit in the face of illness. But by October 1998, more bad news arrived. A second tumor appeared, growing faster and more dangerously. She had to undergo emergency surgery once again. Though the operation removed some of the cancer cells, it also took away most of the strength she had left. In her final months, Michelle spent most of her time at Memorial Sloan Kettering Medical Center in New York, one of the leading cancer hospitals in the U.S. There, Michelle was not just a patient, she became an inspiration. Nurses remembered that despite the pain, she still smiled, still asked how everyone was doing, and sometimes even cracked jokes to ease the mood. One particularly heartbreaking detail in her final days, Michelle still decorated her hospital room with Christmas ornaments, hung twinkling lights, and placed a few small gifts. Her close friend Khadija Bell shared that Michelle wanted to transform the sterile, medicine-scented room into a warm space so that anyone who walked in wouldn't just see a cancer patient, but a young woman full of life. Even when she knew her time was short, she continued to encourage others. "Don't cry for me, laugh with me." On December 23, 1998, just 2 days before Christmas, Michelle took her last breath in the arms of her mother Finjuar, alongside a few close friends, and Malcolm Jamal Warner, her former boyfriend and lifelong confidant. Warner had flown from Los Angeles to New York as soon as he heard Michelle's condition was worsening. He stayed by her bedside, holding her hand until the very end. Later, Michelle's mother said that Malcolm was the only true love of her daughter's life, and his presence at her final moment was the last gift fate had arranged. Michelle's passing devastated her family. Her mother, Finjuar, tearfully recalled, "In just a moment, the disease ravaged my child." Her father, Dennis Thomas of Kool and the Gang, was nearly speechless in the face of such unbearable grief. Her close friends, so used to seeing Michelle's bright, hopeful smile, couldn't believe she was truly gone. As the news broke, the entertainment world was shaken. For Family Matters fans, losing Myra Monkhouse felt like losing a part of the show's soul. Fans of The Cosby Show remembered the gentle, intelligent Justine Phillips and mourned the brief journey of the girl who once made Theo Huxtable fall deeply in love. American media, from People magazine to the New York Times, reported the story, each remembering Michelle as a talented young actress whose life ended far too soon. What stood out most was that the public focus was not just on her death, but on how Michelle had lived in her final months. Articles called her the actress who fought cancer with a smile, and the woman who brought Christmas into a hospital room. One journalist even wrote she left too young. But Michelle lived more fully than many do in a lifetime. Reactions from her colleagues were filled with emotion. Malcolm Jamal Warner, though rarely outspoken, couldn't hide his sorrow. He admitted that Michelle was a once-in-a-lifetime love, someone who had taught him what true love meant. Members of Kool and the Gang. Her father's longtime bandmates called Michelle the child of the entire musical family because she had grown up among the eternal sounds of funk, and her passing cast the whole group into mourning. The public responded with overwhelming compassion. Many fans sent flowers and condolence letters to the Thomas family. Online forums at the time were filled with messages like "Rest in peace, Michelle." For many Black fans, she was a symbol, a young African-American actress, beautiful, talented, and successful in an industry still marred by prejudice. The grief only deepened when people realized that Michelle had only just begun to soar in her career. Her role as Callie in The Young and the Restless earned her a posthumous nomination for Outstanding Actress at the 1999 NAACP Image Awards. But it was an honor that could only be granted after she was gone. That moment highlighted the cruel irony Michelle left just as her career was about to flourish, leaving behind only the aching regret for a star who never had the chance to fully shine. Michelle Thomas's life ended on a cold morning in New York, but the way she faced death became a story of inspiration. To those who witnessed her final days, she wasn't a victim of cancer. She was a warrior who smiled through adversity. Her passing silenced Hollywood, but it also left a lasting lesson. That time may be short, but meaning and the way we live are what define our legacy. The private funeral of Michelle Thomas. On December 26, 1998, just 3 days after Michelle Thomas took her final breath, the peaceful town of Montclair, New Jersey, became the quiet backdrop of an unusual funeral. Unusual not for its scale or extravagance, but for its simplicity, its silence, and the sheer privacy that kept nearly every media lens at bay. While millions of viewers across the U.S. were still reeling from the news of the young actress's passing, her funeral unfolded in a warm, hushed space attended only by family and those closest to her. For someone whose face had become familiar on national television, one might have imagined crowds of reporters, long lines of Hollywood colleagues paying their respects. But Michelle had made her wishes clear. In her final days, she didn't want her funeral to become a public event. Raised in an artistic environment from childhood, she also understood too well the cost of fame. In a conversation with her mother, Finjuar Michelle once whispered, "If I go, please keep everything simple. Just family, and the friends who truly know me." And her family honored that wish. The funeral was held according to Islamic rites, a choice that surprised many. Michelle had never been outspoken about her faith, but before her passing, she had embraced Islam as part of her spiritual journey. The farewell followed Islamic tradition, modest, reverent, and without display. Prayers were recited in a small room at the funeral home, softly lit with warm light. Faces were tearful, but composed, maintaining the quiet that mirrored how Michelle had lived gently without fanfare. The list of attendees was kept private, but the press confirmed a few key names. Her parents, Dennis D.T. Thomas of Kool and the Gang and Finjuar, sat silently in the front row. Childhood friends from New Jersey who had shared innocent days with Michelle were also present. Some members of her father's band came to pay respects, seeing Michelle as a child of the entire Kool and the Gang family. And most notably, Malcolm Jamal Warner, her former boyfriend and lifelong confidant, was confirmed to be there standing beside the family in their grief. Michelle was laid to rest at Rosedale Cemetery in Orange, New Jersey. Her grave is simple, marked only with a headstone bearing her name, date of birth, and date of death. Yet this simplicity touched many deeply. They understood that Michelle needed no grand monument. Her greatest legacy lives in the hearts of audiences, in the memories shared by millions of American families through characters like Justine Phillips and Myra Monkhouse. In the days that followed, the American press reported on the funeral with respect. People magazine described it as a modest yet deeply emotional farewell, highlighting how her family had honored Michelle's wish for privacy. No cameras were allowed to intrude on the proceedings, something rare in an entertainment industry so accustomed to spectacle. The New York Times even noted, "The way Michelle left in the arms of family and close friends reflected the very spirit in which she lived, quiet, unassuming, and full of love." In many ways, Michelle Thomas's funeral felt like the closing chapter of a short but emotionally rich novel. It wasn't flashy or explosive, but it left a lasting impression. Those present that day knew they weren't just saying goodbye to an actress, they were honoring a daughter, a friend, a kind and compassionate soul. And in the absence of Hollywood glitz, the purest love for Michelle shone the brightest. Why? The Cosby Show cast didn't fully attend Michelle Thomas's funeral. When news of Michelle Thomas's funeral broke, the first question many fans asked was, why wasn't the full cast of The Cosby Show there? For viewers who had grown up with the Huxtable family, the passing of such a familiar face should have been a moment for the entire team to reunite and bid her a final farewell. Yet in reality, aside from Malcolm Jamal Warner, her former boyfriend and closest colleague, there was no evidence that other cast members who had shared the screen with Michelle were present. This sparked plenty of speculation. However, upon closer examination, it became clear that their absence wasn't due to indifference or neglect, but rather deeply human reasons and out of respect for Michelle's own wishes. First, the matter of timing and circumstance. Michelle passed away on December 23, 1998, and her funeral was held just 3 days later on December 26th, right in the middle of the Christmas holiday. For many American families, Christmas is not just a holiday, but a sacred time of reunion, when people travel from all over the country to be with loved ones. By then, many Cosby Show actors were scattered across the U.S. from New York to Los Angeles. Receiving the news, adjusting work and personal plans, and arranging last-minute flights to New Jersey in less than 72 hours during one of the busiest travel periods of the year was nearly impossible. Even if some had made it in time, doing so would have meant canceling important family plans. Given the private nature of the service, many likely chose instead to send their condolences from afar, an act that did not reflect any lack of care, but simply the real-life limits of the moment. Second, the deeply private and religious nature of the funeral. Michelle had chosen an Islamic service. In Islamic tradition, funerals are typically held swiftly, ideally within 24 hours of passing, and are intimate affairs attended by only close family and friends. There are no elaborate speeches, no press coverage, and certainly no publicity. The Thomas family honored Michelle's wishes to the letter. In such a context, inviting a wide array of former co-stars from a TV production would not only have been unnecessary, it could have gone against Michelle's desire for a quiet farewell. As former tour manager Sam Cutler once said about Rolling Stones drummer Charlie Watts, he would have hated a flashy funeral. For Michelle Thomas, that sentiment rang just as true. She had always avoided the spotlight off-screen and valued keeping her personal life private. Third, the level of personal connection. While Michelle made an impression on The Cosby Show, it's important to remember she appeared in just 8 episodes between 1988 and 1990. Her character, Justine Phillips, Theo Huxtable's girlfriend, was beloved but not a mainstay of the series. Malcolm Jamal Warner, who played Theo, became her boyfriend in real life and later a lifelong friend. Other cast members like Felicia Rashad, Claire Huxtable Tempest, Bledsoe, Vanessa Kesha Knight, Pulliam Rudy, and Lisa Bonet. Denise likely had fewer personal interactions with Michelle beyond the set. Once the show ended, those connections naturally faded. For many, Michelle was a kind and talented colleague, but not someone with whom they had such a deep bond that they would be invited to a small family-focused funeral. This helps explain why their presence was neither recorded nor expected. Fourth, professional obligations. In the late 1990s, many Cosby Show cast members were still engaged in other projects. Felicia Rashad continued performing on Broadway. Tempest Bledsoe and Keshia Knight Pulliam were working to transition into more mature roles. And Bill Cosby was still starring in the sitcom Cosby 1996-2000. The holiday season is also a time when many actors are tied to family commitments or scheduled filming. For some, traveling to New Jersey on such short notice during that time would have been unworkable. Fifth, respect for the family of the deceased. In many cultures, not attending a funeral does not equate to disrespect. In this case, the Thomas family placed a strong emphasis on privacy. By choosing not to attend, some colleagues may have been honoring that sacred space. They may have sent flowers, messages, or condolences through private means, gestures rarely reported in the media, which tends to focus more on public appearances than on personal outreach. Lastly, there was no rift or misunderstanding. Some fans once speculated that the absence of Cosby Show cast members indicated conflict, but all sources point to the contrary. Malcolm Jamal Warner consistently spoke with respect and affection for his former partner, and Michelle's mother, Finjuar, never expressed disappointment toward her daughter's colleagues. In fact, she emphasized that the funeral was intended strictly for family and a few intimate friends. Thus, the absence of other familiar faces was not due to coldness, but simply because the guest list had been intentionally limited from the beginning. It's also worth noting that after the funeral, many colleagues still paid tribute to Michelle through media or private events. People magazine featured heartfelt messages from friends and co-workers, highlighting Michelle as a resilient and remarkable actress. On fan forums, longtime followers of The Cosby Show and Family Matters shared hundreds of messages affirming that not being present at the funeral did nothing to diminish the love they held for her. Tributes and remembrance. After the funeral. The funeral ended quietly on a December day, but the echoes of Michelle Thomas's presence did not fade. For many, her death at 30 felt like a song cut short, yet each unfinished note continued to resonate in the hearts of those who loved her. And it was in the days following the private ceremony in Montclair, New Jersey, that the tributes and remembrance began to spread from her family, friends, colleagues, and a devoted public across the globe. The Thomas family were the first to keep her memory alive. Her mother, Finjuar, once shared in an interview that she considered her daughter the best friend of my life. After Michelle's death, she kept every memento costumes from The Cosby Show scripts from Family Matters, even handwritten letters Michelle had penned from her hospital bed. For her, each item served as proof of a life that, though brief, was full of joy and resilience. Her father, Dennis Thomas of Kool and the Gang, turned to music to carry his grief. In performances after 1998, he often dedicated the song Cherish to Michelle as a way of reminding audiences to value every moment with the ones they love. Malcolm Jamal Warner. Michelle's former boyfriend and lifelong confidant became a living witness to their love and memories, though he rarely spoke about his private life. Whenever he mentioned Michelle, his tone would soften. He once shared about elephant juice, a love code they used during their youth, as a sign of a bond that never truly broke. In memorial events later on, Malcolm spoke tenderly. Michelle was one of the few people who made me feel loved unconditionally. Their connection went beyond a youthful romance. It became part of the emotional legacy Michelle left behind for those who knew her best. In Hollywood, Michelle's passing left a notable void. The Family Matters cast held small private gatherings where they reminisced about Myra Monkhouse, the character Michelle had brought to life with grace and boundless energy. Jaleel White, who played Steve Urkel, often became emotional, saying Michelle made every scene more joyful. She was the reason our set was always filled with laughter, even on the toughest days. These tributes didn't happen under blinding camera flashes, but in quiet, meaningful moments. Proof that true camaraderie doesn't need to be performed. Professionally, the most visible tribute came in the form of her 1999 NAACP Image Award nomination for her role as Callie Rogers in The Young and the Restless. Though Michelle had already passed before the ceremony, her name was called to long, warm applause. It was more than a nod to her talent. It was a declaration that her brief contributions had left a lasting mark on the Black artistic community. Critics called the nomination Hollywood's final kiss. Goodbye to Michelle Thomas. Fans, however, chose other ways to remember. Each year on December 23rd, online forums light up with posts titled Remembering Michelle, often featuring images of Justine Phillips smiling beside Theo Huxtable or Myra Monkhouse determinedly pursuing her love for Steve Urkel. In the 2000s, fan-edited videos set to emotional soundtracks were widely shared on YouTube, introducing Michelle to a new generation of viewers who came to love her just as their parents once had. Outside the US, fans of American sitcoms organized small screenings in Michelle's honor. At television clubs in London, Toronto, or Lagos, people gathered to watch episodes featuring Justine or Myra laughing and crying together. This global response showed that Michelle's impact wasn't confined to American borders. Her performances connected with people worldwide who saw joy and humanity in her characters. Perhaps the most touching part of Michelle's legacy is the inspiration she left for young, aspiring actors. Many young Black women wrote letters or sent emails to her family, saying they dared to pursue acting because they saw themselves in Michelle, a petite, humble actress who still managed to shine. Her presence on screen, though not long-lasting, helped break stereotypes about supporting Black characters, showing that they could be central, lovable, layered, and worthy of admiration. Even 2 decades later, Michelle Thomas continues to appear on Gone Too Soon, lists alongside names like Aaliyah or Heath Ledger talents who passed away, before their time leaving the world full of unspoken potential. But Michelle stands apart in one way. She didn't only leave sorrow, she left warmth. People remember her smile above all else, and the gentle light she brought to the screen, as if that was her most eternal legacy. The tributes following Michelle Thomas's funeral were not part of a grand media campaign, but rather a collection of quiet, scattered moments in the hearts of the public and her friends. A flower laid at her Rosedale grave, a rerun aired on cable TV, a heartfelt message on a fan forum all formed a collective portrait proving that she never truly disappeared. Michelle Thomas lived only 3 decades, but the tributes that followed have kept her presence alive indefinitely. Though she never had time to build a vast career through just a few roles, a radiant spirit, and unwavering optimism. Even in her final days, Michelle carved her name into the hearts of millions. And that is the greatest tribute of all, that the name Michelle Thomas still brings smiles, misty eyes, and memories of a youthful light that never goes out. Michelle Thomas passed away at the age of 30, but the legacy she left behind far exceeds those brief years. As Justine in The Cosby Show, Myra in Family Matters, and Callie in The Young and the Restless, Michelle touched the hearts of millions. She was not only a talented actress, but also a symbol of strength, grace, and a life lived with positivity. Today, whenever those classic episodes are replayed, Michelle's radiant smile still brings tears to the eyes of many. She lives on not only in the memories of her fans, but also in the enduring belief that the light of love and optimism never truly fades. If you were ever touched by Michelle Thomas, we invite you to share your memories in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, so we can continue telling the stories of stars who will never be forgotten.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast. There is still so much more to explore: stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now appearing on your screen.